Hi, welcome if you're watching from identityweek.net. I'm Evie Kimsing. We're 5 weeks away from Identity Week America in Washington, DC. I'm delighted this morning to be speaking with one of our gold sponsors. Bassem Al-Khalidi is co-CEO and founder at Axiad. It's brilliant to speak with you this morning. Obviously, your team is behind a SaaS passwordless authentication platform that's cutting out cumbersome and anti-secure passwords for the future. Um, my first question is multi-factor authentication, obviously it's the most effective way to ensure a user is asserting an identity which is genuine, but the friction aspect of it, how can we overcome friction and a poor user experience?
Yeah, Evie, thank you for having me on, and we're excited to be part of Identity Week, and we look forward to it. I think with regards to being able to identify which user is authenticating to which resource or which system, that's typically the challenge, right? A lot of organizations, are using passwords, and passwords. We all know that there's a lot of issues with passwords, and you hear about all the hacks and all the events that are happening that are password related. So definitely MFA is in the right direction because it improves the security posture of the organization. But then unfortunately, it creates, as you just stated, it creates a lot more friction because you still have the password and the password related problems such as password resets, password complexity, password change. And then on top of that, now you have all the issues that are the additional friction that the traditional or legacy MFA brings onto it. So definitely MFA is a step in the right direction. It's better than not having anything. But yeah, absolutely, I think it adds a lot of friction. So what we're trying to do from the Axiad perspective is really solve a bunch of these problems at its core and at the same time. So one, as you mentioned, right, going towards a passwordless future, removing the need to have a password at any point in time. So having the user, authenticate to their endpoint or to their resources in a true passwordless way, that there's no need for them to remember a password or change it every 30, 60, or 90, and also no need for that MFA on top of it. Really having a strong phishing resistant passwordless experience. So with something super simple like a PIN that they may know, or they're using their biometric leveraging if that's what the authenticator allows them to do. And now what they have is they have a stronger authenticator that is a lot more user friendly, and you removed all that overhead and that friction, not just for the end user, but for the organization as well from an administration and help desk perspective. So I think that's what we're really trying to help organizations with, is increasing your security posture without sacrificing any security and without even sacrificing the end user experience, making sure that we provide the best of both worlds: simple user interaction, maximum security.
And you've provided some good reasons there why MFA is so useful in a modern age. How is it working to fight incidents of fraud, for example, and unauthorized access?
Yeah, so I think I hinted a little bit about kind of the issues with passwords, and one of the biggest problems obviously is kind of whether it's the man of the middle attack, social engineering. Once a hacker can get a password, or because users also sometimes reuse passwords a lot, even in applications that are outside the organization. So once you have that password in the hands of a bad actor, now they can log into these different applications, especially now that everything's remote, everything's online. So that gives the hacker the capability to really accessing all these different applications from anywhere. So MFA makes it a lot harder for the bad actor to do that. But even within MFA itself, honestly, not all MFA is created equal, and we see that now. Now there's a strong push not just to do your basic MFA, but really to have phishing resistant MFA. And going back to my to the first question that you just asked, really is how can we solve this problem at its core by really eliminating passwords and leveraging kind of modern authentication, but with passwordless authenticators, so that an organization can truly leapfrog to kind of the next generation solutions.
And it's not just authenticating the right person, but authenticating the right level of access they have to
Right.
data, isn't it? Could you just explain a
Right.
bit more about that?
Yeah, now when we start talking about authorization, right? So this is kind of the next level of complexity that's happening as more and more solutions adapt kind of modern authentication, and a lot of these platforms, a lot of these kind of online products or identity and access solutions. A lot of them have their own kind of authentication scheme, which again is this is all a step in the right direction. But now what it creates is, well, okay, just because you're authenticated, are you authorized? Do you have the right level of access to access X, Y, and Z? I think the complexity expands a little bit when you start to have, multiple different solutions, and each one of them has their own authentication scheme. So what that creates is it creates a little bit more burden to the end user. What do I mean by that? I mean that to leverage that solution and to leverage all of the capability that it has, some of these products force you to have their own authenticator. So now, as an end user, what happens is my user experience starts to degrade really quickly, because now I need, for solution A, I need authenticator A. So not only can I authenticate to it, but then it can give me the right access to that resource or not. Am I authorized to get to that information or not? And then I need a different authentication, a different authenticator for solution B, or for X, or for Y. And again, we're not making, in this context, it's not making the life of the end user simple. We're adding more friction. On the Axiad side, what we do is, because we don't leverage traditional MFA, it's really truly passwordless, built on crypto. So we don't have any passwords or pre-shared secrets or anything like that. It's really truly a passwordless solution based on either certificate-based authentication, FIDO2, passkey, or in the future soon, passkey managers. What that will do is now allow you to authenticate with that single authenticator across the board to your different applications, and then allowing the application to kind of do the authorization at the right level. Because if you're going to push your authorization to different areas, you might inherit new types of risk, because solution A may not know all the right authorization level for solution B and not have the data in real time. So that's why I think having that capability of using that single passwordless authenticator to all these different types of modern authentication solution, but still be able to leverage their authorization schema is important. Just kind of give you an example, right? Microsoft spends a lot of R&D and investment on providing the right level of authorization to the different access. Axiad the Axiad Authenticator plugs and plays with Microsoft in a passwordless way, and now you can get the best of both worlds. You can get a strong passwordless authenticator from Axiad that leverages all the Microsoft capability on its backend and all its authorization forms. So this way, you truly get the best of both worlds.
Wow, so customers are gonna welcome a passwordless feature with Axiad's solutions, I would have thought.
Yeah, actually, the customers that we talk to, I think 1 and 2 are really looking towards going towards a passwordless future, right? That's kind of the next evolution, because of the things that we just talked about a little bit before. It's giving you that additional security, removing the friction from the end user, removing the friction from even the management and the overhead from help desk and from admins. So really, there's so many benefits, and your ROI is instantly there. So 1 out of 2 customers that we talk to, really, that's the path they want to go down the road. And I always give the kind of the same advice, is to look at 3 things when you're looking at a passwordless solution. Is one, definitely do your homework, do your research. Not all passwordless solutions are created equal. Some provide what I call a passwordless experience. That means they're mimicking a passwordless experience, but behind the scenes, they're still using a password or pre-shared key, or repurposing something behind the scenes. Really, if you're going to look for a passwordless, make sure it's a true password solution, that it's relying on things like certificate-based authentication, FIDO2, or other types of cryptography, but making sure it supports open standards. I think that's a very important thing, to make sure that that solution is really plug and play into your environment, so that you can leverage your current investment that you've made as you kind of want to get more out of what you have today. So being able to have a platform that can really help you get to passwordless in a rapid way, but at the same time leverage the current investment that you've made. And last but not least, build a roadmap, right? There's no need to boil the ocean here. Maybe you start with your admins, and then roll into help desk, and then roll into the general population, then roll into all the different applications that you have. But having that roadmap on how to achieve passwordless in a gradual way, so that you get great adoption rates, great deployment rates, and make sure that you have a roadmap to address all your authentication needs within the organization, not just the majority or 80 or the 80-20 rule, but truly try to look at a platform that can address all the needs within the organization.
And lastly, then, why is identity and access management as an idea critical to zero trust architecture? You mentioned some solution providers might be doing it better than others because
Mhm.
they've got a genuine solution. When it's done well, what can it achieve?
Yeah, so if we look at the cornerstone of zero trust, is really to be able to authenticate um, any access, whether that's a user, a device, an application, a machine to machine, right? So that's kind of the cornerstone, is really being able to authenticate that digital identity or that digital access at that moment in time, and that's what Axiad provides, is really having the capability of not just, we've been talking a lot about kind of the user and the user experience, but the Axiad platform also provides the capability of creating a digital identity for devices, for applications, for your APIs. So now, as part of that cornerstone that I mentioned for zero trust, is now you can have every digital transaction within the organization being authenticated, and that's a critical part when we talk about zero trust.
Awesome. It's great to talk to you, and I look forward to meeting you in person at the event in October. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I look forward to meeting you as well.